Hello. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for following the posted time and getting on here live to check this out or watching this later because time is all over the place right now, right? So we're just moving with it. So first I want to thank you for liking, subscribing and watching this because my numbers are up, huge numbers, and they just keep getting bigger, and I love that I've been able to apply some of the past coaching skills and education and sort of communication tools with you and apply them towards the solar flare. So ah. So first, what I'm going to do is at the top of my website, at the top of my Facebook page of everything, I have that this mantra of mine, which is I collect pieces of wisdom and I turn them into information. So, what I've been doing since last Sunday is reading what everybody's saying about how big the solar flares got, watching what's going on, and then what's been happening since they stopped on the 15th and it got really quiet. So, I'm just going to put together a lot of different resources. And if I've mentioned something that came from somebody and I didn't document it, I apologize. I was just in the process of culling through things, just was jotting down notes all week long. So, last Sunday, we were in the midst of a solar flare up. And then on the 14th and 15th, we had 5 solar flares in 48 hours, right? So it went X1, then it went X1. And I guess that would be on the 14th, but on the 13th in the early morning, we had X1s, but I'm not including that in the 48 hours. So X1, X1, and then it went to X8, which is the biggest one we've had of this solar cycle so far. And go to last week if you feel like that was big and scary, because I want to try to normalize that and talk about how often we've been in these kind of big flares, right? So then after the X8, it dropped and it went X3 and then it went X2. And then, the solar spot sort of started to move off and we went quiet. Since then, we've had repetitive Cs, C1 up to C8, an M1 or two here or there, but nothing really big and measurable. It was very odd after going to Pam Youngin's, good morning, good Sunday morning, good Saturday morning, good Friday morning reports. I always like to try to see just how many solar flares she lists out. And there was none, or just one, like sort of a really small overview. And I'm like, oh, okay, so what was that all about? And what are we supposed to do? So, we've been tracking these. I've been tracking these as an individual. I've been sharing them with you. You've been tracking them. And what we're noticing is that we all process this energy differently. We're unique human beings with our own energy fields, and we're processing this differently, right? And some of us are going up into ecstasy, into almost like hyper energy, super cheerful, and some of us are just tanking and going down and sort of feeling oppressed. This is one of the cards that came up, like, I swear these solar flares are just killing me. And afterwards, within the thought deck, it's kind of like I have this spark of energy, and then these two big, heavy leaded, wands are just pushing on it. And that may be what happens when we have this burst of energy and these oppressive conditionings, programmings, thoughts, expectations sort of come in and crush it all, right? And, we may be doing, I'm not sure I like the name of this schizophrenia, but what I like about Osho is that, we have one world and we have another world, and neither of them seem to be talking really clearly to us right now. So we're sort of betwixt in between, right? So we are having a lot of dilemmas, and I want to just slow it down and say, of course we are. We're in the midst of tremendous change right now, right? And that we're having a series of symptoms that are just, so, we've got heightened nervous system. Our agitation is up and we're like, something's off, something's wrong. It's a little bit more energetic than I thought it was going to be. I don't know what to do with that, right? We have stuck energy. We might have a whole bunch of stuff coming up from the past that we're holding on to, and we're not even seeing that there's light or energy behind us. We're just literally trying to handle all of the things and the lineage and the antiques and everything that comes with it that is part of our past, right? We're having aches and pains. So many aches and pains. It's incredible. It moves from, like we've talked about, from jaw to shoulder to knee to cramps to digestion, sleep or lack of sleep, appetite. Some of us are eating voraciously. I can't seem to stop finding something that when my agitation goes up, it's like, what piece of fruit, what nuts, what can I eat, right? Or digestion issues, mood swings, incredible mood swings, right? Now, part of what started after this, because the X flares brought on this expansion, this explosion in our energy system, we're moving really, really, really quickly towards whatever it is. It's like the Knight of Wands in the Osho deck, and also sort of like totally surrendering to. If you look at the little body crumpled up at the bottom, some of us are down, buried, like, oh, and others of us are just rising up into this energy, right? What can be one some of the symptoms that I also want to add is like brain fog, skips in time. I'm going here, then I'm here, and then I'm here, and then there's fogginess around it. Um, Lack of momentum, lack of motivation. Uh, what else? High energy, ecstatic, sort of all over the place. So let's go into it from a different perspective, which is our cellular system has been energized, right? It has been like activated. And what's happening, and I was reading one of the articles on Pam Youngin's site that, as a seed, it's almost like the seed bursts and then it starts to move up and it's pushing soil away, right? And it's pushing it out of the way. And the way that Osho describes this is, this is the strength card. He calls it courage, right? So our energetic system is meeting these challenges, meeting these systems, and it's pushing us forward, right? And it's pushing us into what is unknown. It's a territory we haven't been in. It's unknown. It's a blank slate. It's limitless, and we are released, right, from some of the conditioning and recalibrating. And I want to introduce. I know I've talked to you about this card before in the past. This is how Osho uses the Hierophant, the 5. And it's called no thingness. And, it's a blank slate. It's when we have cleared everything and we're starting with a blank slate, which is incredibly uncomfortable if we're used to production, if we're used to performing, if we're used to measuring ourselves by goals. Then these things become really difficult to deal with. So when you really look at this, this card, haunted me for like 2 years. I pulled it all the time. And I had to just come to terms with the fact that when we are at our wisest, when we're in balance, when our willpower is harnessed, when we are in our wisdom of the Hierophant, we are holding a blank slate, which is, if I step right, it's good. If I step forward, it's good. If I step left, it's good. And we watch and accept things as they are, right? So knowing that this is freedom, this is the unknown, this is the blank slate, what kept dropping in constantly was this idea of what happens when you take livestock, horses, cattle, and they've been in a pen, a corral for so long, and then you open the fences up. They don't always go rushing out. Some might. Some are like, yeah, let's go. And others are kind of like, well, what's that all about? And there's something unknown and dangerous out there, right? So they might go into freeze. They might go into fear. They might stay in the safety and security because that out there is not known. At least I know how to battle all of this right here. Right? So if we venture out into the blank slate, into the unknown, into the unfamiliar, what happens is we start to create our own reality. We have to start acknowledging that there's a reality out there that we can create, that is our new path, that's free of this kind of oppression or this kind of suppression. or this kind of historical lineage past that we've been holding on to, right? Wow, it's huge. So, what I'm going to say is that the matrices are collapsing, right? They don't have a hold on us anymore. And so what we want to do is we want to use this. If there's no hold on us, if we are free to expand, and then here is the, if this is the 5 in tarot, this is the 5 of discs, which is in the same um, constellation, right? What I love about this card is here is this little child who's been stuck in all of this conditioning, all of this programming, fenced away, and there's a lock over here, right? And this child's looking out and going, there's the unknown, there's the blank slate. This is where we're at right now. So we can stay in that courtyard and be secure. But if you look really closely, that lock is not locked. All that child has to do is decide, I'm going to go outside, unhook the lock, unwrap the chain, throw the gate open, and go out into that rainbow and start to play with it, right? So this is where we're at. So Elizabeth April did a really interesting sort of quick 11-minute channeled piece that she had, and there was, I'm like listening to it like I listened to everything else, and then she started on this one sentence, and I dropped everything and went back and replayed it, and then she said, and I'm going to read it again, and I got a piece of paper out and I wrote it down. So she was talking with a member of the Galactic Federation Security Council. This was on the 13th, right before the big solar flares. And what this person, this being, said to her is, it isn't about changing or controlling the state of reality in its material form. So it isn't about changing this to make it more pleasant to be in. It isn't about staying here and allowing the dirt and the safety of the rocks to keep us, right? It's about changing your perception of reality through harnessing the frequency of observation. The frequency of observation, that's what stopped me in my tracks. Then and only then will the material function of your reality change, both individually and collectively. So what that means is that when we start to harness this frequency, right, the vibration of observation, then we become a conscious navigator. Then we are able to steer for ourselves, for our children, for the world around us, and we end up becoming, navigating in a free, open spot, and doing it with, I love this. This is the Knight of Cups, with trust. Like, I trust where I'm going. I know what I'm doing, right? So the flares have sort of taken the top of our head off. They've taken off that mental programming, conditioning, imprinting, and they've introduced us to imagination. And that imagination is phenomenal, right? And so our mental contractions have been opened. So it's our ability to expand and go in towards this kind of rainbow, right? To be able to pay attention and observe. Because when we observe our responses, our reactions, right? When we observe our approaches right now, then everything starts to talk to us, and our body becomes fluid, and our body becomes responsive, and we start to notice the subtleties of the things that pick us up. Now, I have tools about this, and I have perspectives and tools on this that I'm sharing in the extended. And what I've decided to do is take this information and present it to you and give you some core understandings, and then guide you over to Vimeo, where you can, for $7, watch another 20-minute video that has the exact points of what we're talking about and what you can do about it. That way it helps me with a little bit of revenue. It helps you with some tools. You can rent it, you can buy it, you can save it, you can start to record it over or watch it over and over again. Okay. So at this point, what we're looking at is using this post flare to understand that we can open the door and we can go somewhere, and then we can flow with it, and we can trust the process, right? Because what we're doing is we're blooming into something completely new. So where I want to leave you with right now is to observe, when are you in the flow? When are you in the response? When are you in some sort of moving with all of this? And when are you in suppression? When are you feeling like, oh, it's just not working? One of these is a mental card. Well, they're both actually fire cards. No, one is mental, one is fire, right? And it's what happens when our momentum is stopped and when our thinking is blocked, right? So watch how we respond or we react, and watch how you hold your carriage and your eyes in observation and get into that frequency of observation, right? So when we go into this deeper video next, that those golden perspectives, I'm telling you, they're worth it. It's fun. So I'm going to leave you right there, and with a couple of reminders. Rest when you need to. Stay hydrated, because we're fluid and we're becoming more fluid. Make sure your minerals are helping you recalibrate and adjust, and recognize that we are what? If that big 5 flares in 48 hours ended on the 15th, today's the 19th, we're 4 days out of it. It takes a minimum of 3 days to start recalibrating and adjusting to a solar flare. With 5 of them at once, I imagine we're going to spend the rest of this weekend, or today and into the week, of just understanding what just happened and what's being opened in me and what do I do about that. So I'll see you over at Vimeo if you go over there. If not, I'll see you next week. You take care. Bye-bye.